Our lead story is this. The Trump administration is now cracking down on the crisis at the southern border in a new way you haven't heard about.
Wow. Attorney General William Barr ordering new rules for asylum seekers at the DHS as the DHS considers further emergency action.
Griff Jenkins is live in Washington with the latest attempts to slow the migrant surge. Hey, Griff, what's the latest?
Hey, Ainsley, Brian, and Steve, this is quite significant. This is Barr's first decision on immigration. Detained asylum seekers claiming credible fear after illegally entering the country will no longer be able to ask for release. Barr writing this: a credible fear of persecution or torture is ineligible for release on bond. Now, previously, migrants have been able to ask for bond until their case is heard. Often it is granted. This does not apply, by the way, to family units or unaccompanied children. Certainly the focus of the problem there, and it will not affect those applying legally for asylum at a port of entry. Meanwhile, the Department of Homeland Security's bipartisan advisory council, which is made up of a panel of experts, is recommending emergency steps to slow the surge on the southern border, where more than 225,000 family units have been picked up this year. The council is recommending this: establish 3 to 5 processing centers at the border to shelter all families, a Flores fix, rolling back regulations for detaining unaccompanied migrant children, a rocket docket that would allow the asylum seekers to access a hearing much faster, get a decision within 20 to 30 days, and establishing that asylum claims must be made at an official port of entry. The recommendations come as the numbers are staggering, guys. Look at them. 500% surge in family units this year, 53,000 family units apprehended last month, and 500 plus family units there. And what you're seeing is a statement by DHS Acting Secretary Kevin McAleenan, which is saying that these recommendations are essential to secure our border and for the safety and the welfare of children living in Central America and elsewhere who continue to make this dangerous trek north. Nobody has seen it more than we have, and it is dangerous for these children, many of them sent by themselves. It comes as the administration is reportedly resuming that Remain in Mexico policy, which is being challenged in California in court.
That's right. So Griff, just to recap, before, if somebody came into the country because they said, look, I got this credible fear that I'm going to be killed when I go back to my home country, it has been up to a judge or the Border Patrol. They'll just, they'll tag them with an ankle bracelet and let them go. Now it's up to the Department of Homeland Security, which is going to say, no, we're going to hang on to them, right?
That's exactly correct. And presumably, if they're not a family unit or an unaccompanied child, they would remain indefinitely in jail while it's adjudicated. And it strikes, Steve, at the heart of the magnet and the draw of why these people are coming from the Northern Triangle.
Now, Griff, we only paid you to do a report, not to answer questions. Is that a problem?
Listen, whatever you need, I'm all sorts of
full
answers.
service.
Yeah, full service.
All right.
You got a raise. You answered the question.
Good job, Griff.
Thank you, Griff. So they're saying that this will prevent them from working because many of these people, they come over the border the wrong way in between the ports of entry. They are arrested or tagged, like you said, and then they're sent into our country to go and work and pay back the fees that they owe those smugglers and the cartels that help them get into our country. But they say this is sending a message, or will send a message down to the next wave of migrants to say, hey, you're not going to make any money doing this, and it could affect your family.
They changed the rules.
Right. During the 2018 midterm elections, they said the president was making up these caravan stories and a problem at the border to jam up his base. Oops, that kind of blew up, didn't it? Because here we are in the spring of 2019, and the problem has gotten worse. That footage is not a bunch of extra actors that we paid or the president paid in order to underline his problem at the border policy. Finally, a Democrat who wants to be president has noticed there's an issue at the border. It is New Jersey Senator Cory Booker.
We do have a problem at the southern border, and Democrats should not deny that we don't. Nations should have borders. Borders should be respected. My beef with this president is that, number one, his technologies don't work. I've gone down to the border. I've hung out with CBP and other Border Patrol folks, and they're like, there's no way we need a wall coast to coast.
But we've already gotten past the ball face-to-face.
Cory Booker and the president now are on the same page. And in some cases, the president said, look, we don't need a wall coast to coast. One other thing that Cory said yesterday in Sergeant Bluff, Iowa, was we are now to the stage where we can use sensors and technologies and drones, which once upon a time were not available, but now that will work.
I don't know if they're on the same page.
They're kind of on the same
Maybe
page.
on one issue.
There is a problem at the southern border. They're on. Besides, it's hard to look at those pictures and say, yeah, everything's fine.
It's smart of him to admit that because we have a long way until the election, and these migrant caravans are getting larger and larger as we approach the summer months.
Yeah, as Betsy McCoy writes in today's New York Post, wait a second, Democrats, you don't want the president to be able to keep people in Mexico, remain in Mexico, even though we cut an international deal. And when it comes to sanctuary cities, you say all illegals are welcome, but when the president goes to put the illegals there, as we find out what to do with them, you say you can't put them there. So what are you basically saying? Build the Hilton after Marriott, after Ramada Inn over at the Texas border, at Arizona border, in New Mexico, or in California? You can't have it every way. I just hope that Lindsey Graham gets his thing on paper, makes everybody vote on it, and it gets through the Senate, and maybe the House sobers up and passes something.
Well, now that this Department of Homeland Security recommendation has come out, rather than it be political, they can go, hey, look at this. This is what the Department of Homeland Security is suggesting. Ways to streamline the problem down south. Maybe they'll look at that. But then again, they've called in experts before.
That's right. And the recommendations are going into effect, or could go into effect in 90 days. Gives these towns enough time to build those tent cities.